Vashon High School, I had no idea that I was going to resurface again. I had a lot of things in my mind in terms of what I wanted to do. My biggest goal that I had was I was going to make sure, I don't care what it take or what it took, is to go to college. And one of the things that I felt that was going to help me get there, because I didn't have the money to do it, was to play basketball and to earn a basketball scholarship. So, and that came to fruition my senior year, that I was offered a basketball scholarship to Langston University, an HBCU school in Langston, Oklahoma. A very small school. But before I got an offer to Langston, I had a offer to go to Coffeyville Junior College in Kansas, and that's where I was on my way. And I decided to stop through Langston just to take a look at it, because a friend of mine had told me to, hey, go to, just stop on your way, because it's on the way to Coffeyville. It wouldn't take you anything to go to Langston and check it out. So I went to Langston to check it out, and I planned to stay a couple of days and to see if I was going to like it. And I ran into a young lady from Oklahoma City on campus. So that kind of piqued my interest. And so that 3 days turned out to be a week, and that week turned out to be 4 years, because I never did get to Coffeyville Junior College. So that's how I got to school. I had to pack my little trunk, and my mother told me, she said, hey, this is your opportunity. Don't come back unless you got a degree. There's nothing back here for you. So, and that's where I ended up, at Langston University in Langston, Oklahoma, man. And probably 4 of the best years of my life to actually attend, and because I'd already come from a predominantly Black school at Vashon, and going to just a higher institution that was predominantly Black was tailor-made for me. So
yeah, we talk about community big, and it's great to see that, when a lot of times when we go off to school, we don't have the foresight to whatever we grab from college to apply that back to our community. Did you have that approach to basically say, what I've learned in school, it makes it no difference if I learn it and then I just move out somewhere and don't give back? Did you have that giving back approach when you decided to come back home?
Well, no doubt, because I felt like the teachers at Vashon did a great job of preparing me for whatever my endeavor was outside of high school. It's something. It was just something about that nurturing that pushed me forward. So I always wanted to do something about, hey, if I ever came back, I want to give back just as much as they had given to me, because I felt like if it hadn't been for Vashon High School and the nurturing I got there, it wouldn't have been a Floyd Irons in what he wanted to do. So that with that saying, I decided my sophomore year or my junior year of college that I coached my fraternity team, and I coached them for 2 years. And after coaching them for 2 years, I said, hey, I'm not going to be a professional basketball player. I want to stay around the game, and maybe this is a way of me giving back. And what better way to give back is to look at going into coaching. So that was my thought process of going into coaching. And as a result, I came back home after graduating in the summer. I intend on going to Oklahoma University in the grad program, and messing around with the coach at Vashon at the time, which was Ron Coleman, and we hung out all summer. And he said, hey man, why don't you just decide to stay around and be a part of Vashon's basketball program, because I don't know how long that I'm going to, be in this position. It's something, there's other things I want to do. So as a result, we got to talking, And I said, well, hey, what better way to get acclimated to coaching as to, being up under Ryan, and at the time he had Marvin Neals as an assistant. So I stayed and taught school, but I volunteered my services as an assistant coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I was going to ask you about Ronald Coleman, because I saw in 1971 Vashon won the state championship. Was that so you're basically saying, like, when you got to college, that was like your first getting that itch to say, hey, I might as well start coaching, and started falling in love with it? But what type of player were you? Were you like a coach on the floor as a player?
Well, I was definitely not you, Bryan. I didn't have that ability you had. You could shoot the ball. You was a little bit more athletic than I was, but I was a student of the game, and I played point guard. And if if you talk to some people who played with me, they would probably say I was a coach on the floor, because when my high school coach George Cross put the ball in my hand, and he said I needed somebody to run my team, I was that person. So as a result, I learned from being that point guard, and I didn't have a coaching background in terms of a father figure who would teach me the game. So I learned from my high school coach and what I had picked up from my college coach. But so I was a point guard in high school, and I was a point guard in college. So that was my sport, to be the coach on the floor.
So I was just going to ask you about that, when you just talk about like your leadership skills, as far as like honing those for like young coaches. Like what are some of the things that we can do to kind of like nourish or even try to enhance like our leadership skills? Because I mean, from just learning from you guys, like coaching is just more than the X's and O's. Like you have to be a good leader to at least have kids want to, follow in that direction. So just talk about the leadership things that young coaches can do to try to like enhance their game.
Well, in the way I looked at it, Bryan, is the fact that coaching is no different. Matter of fact, you are a teacher on the floor, and I felt as though that the teachers I had did a good job with me of teaching me in the classroom, and that's what I wanted to be at first before becoming a coach. I wanted to be a teacher. So I found out that there was no difference in your classroom than you're teaching on the floor. You got to get kids to believe in what you're trying to tell them and trying to get them to do. And that's the same thing in the classroom. So my teaching skills from my classroom transcend over into the court. And so my classroom in the classroom in the school was the same as my classroom on the court. So the main thing is getting kids to believe in what you're trying to get them to do. So in essence, that's the way I felt. So when you're looking at youngsters today, you got to get them to buy in, and getting them to buy in is probably the biggest portion. And all that is working with doing something and letting them see that they're able to let them experience success. And once that happens, that light comes on, and you can probably get them to walk on water for you. I look at you, and I look at my son, and I look at Jimmy, and I look at all those that come through the PHL, or come through the system, and it makes me feel real good that apparently, me and the coaches that coach with me or coach against me must have done a pretty good job of selling ourselves as coaching to make you all want to go into that profession.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, because like I said, I tell folks all the time that I started really getting into high school basketball, like probably right around like my 7th grade year, but just walking into a world that I had no idea that, that this stuff went on way before me, and it's going to continue to go on after I left. But one thing that kind of left a lasting impression on me was coming to, Vashon games, seeing that Vashon atmosphere. And by us not having a St. Louis basketball team, like that was St. Louis basketball. So can you just kind of talk about like what went into that, as far as, like you said, having a vision of saying like, I want my program to be ran a certain way. What went into that? Like, what were some of the elements that you thought that, you needed to put in to make a team be able to excel and play at the levels that they played throughout the years?
Well, Brian, when I was coming through, there was a lot of restrictions that were placed upon us, not because we want them put on us, that's because the fact that they was just there. We couldn't, outside of PHL, when I was at Vashon, we were not allowed, or we couldn't go and play a lot of teams. And there were a lot of tournaments that when I was there that we were not invited to. Certain PHL teams, people would invite Sumner and might not invite Central. People would invite Beaumont because before you got there, Beaumont was predominantly a white school, or it became more of a mixture under a white coach. And so they were able to do things or be able to play a schedule that Vashon High School and some of the other predominantly, which actually Vashon High School and Sumner could not play. So when I came back as a coach, or when I became, one of the things that that resonated with me is the fact that I want to be able to do something to make Vashon High School program a household name, not only in the city, but my ambition was to move it beyond the city, to make it if no matter where you go and somebody speak of Vashon basketball or speak of basketball in the St. Louis area, no doubt they would speak of Vashon. So that was a part of my goal to branch out and to do that. It wasn't necessarily easy. So, but that was my goal, and I strived hard and worked hard to get kids to want to come and to be a part of Vashon. And in essence too, I wanted Vashon basketball to be a program where, like, a window that people can look in, say, yeah, they got a great program, but also that window was the Vashon program to look in to be able to say that, oh, they got other things going on there. They got kids going to school. They got kids graduating. They got kids doing this. So those are things were my goal. And I figured that my legacy was to be able to do that. If in the long run, I'm going to make Vashon basketball a household name, and I work very hard to do it.
So talk about, because I look at kind of like the landscape right now where, not I'm not going to say AAU, but I mean, it's then kind of manifested to the point where, I mean, you got kids that specialize in one particular sport all year round. But talk a little bit about, and a lot of the guests I've had on here, it's been like an underlining thing, but I talk about the NYSP program as far as having an outlet for kids, like maybe like in the summertime, if they have nothing to do, it was a program that was able to, I don't talk more about that, because I'm still trying to wrap my head around what was that, and can something like that still exist?
Well, the National Youth Sports Program, I don't know if it still exists, but it was I kind of sponsored and generated by colleges on college campus, I guess, to have the NYSP program on a college campus, to bring inner city kids to college campuses, to give them an idea of what campus life is all about, to see a college campus. You have kids in certain areas that might not ever get out and see what's going on outside of their little circles. So this NYSP program was a sports program that gave kids an opportunity to go out and see things that they don't necessarily see in their neighborhoods. And it was on a college campus. Some had dorms where kids stayed, but I worked with an NYSP program under Bob Nelson at Forest Park, where we went out. We had about 10 buses to go to 10 different areas, and we would bring kids to the campus, and they would stay all day. We pick them up at 9 and then get them home about 2 or 3. and they went through a number of sports, not necessarily specializing in basketball. They had, they had flag football. They had, different sports, softball, well, not baseball, but softball. They had swimming. They had a whole program for kids to get exposed to. So, and to me, I thought it was tremendous program for kids. I don't know today because I'm not involved in if there's still an NYSP program, but when I got an opportunity to work in it, I jumped at that opportunity, and I got the experience, and I got the chance to work with youngsters and to help them on their skills in different sports.
Yeah, because I was just wondering, like, if something like that could still work today, because I mean, you said a big thing as far as the exposure. I think the biggest thing for, we have kids that come into high school, and some maybe never even heard of an HBCU, or we're so naive to the point of we have to start from scratch and teaching them about what's the level of the things that you need to pertain to stay eligible in doing high school, but not only that, to inspire outside of high school, to where you have to educate them on, like I said, HBCUs, what is a junior college, what is a Division I, an NAIA school, and everybody wants the big lights of a Division I, but Division Ones don't, you can't say I'm waiting on a Division I. Division Ones come to you. They know who they want,
Well, Bryan, as an inner city coach, I felt it was a responsibility. Now, was that really a responsibility for us to expose and give our kids? You're hired as a basketball coach. You're not hired as a counselor. You're not hired as a father figure. You're not hired at whatever. But if you take a job in the inner city, you take a job in the St. Louis Public Schools, which I did, I felt like it was my responsibility to expose my players to as much as I can that was given to me, to give them the same type of experience that I had as a high school athlete and more. So they would have a plethora of things to choose from, to get exposed. I took pleasure in traveling and going to different cities to play. I felt that when I was at Vashon, it was unknown, definitely a phantom to be able to fly to a game. Well, I felt I wanted my kids to get the experience. Most of my kids, when we start traveling, we start flying, Bryan, to different, and never been on an airplane.
Yeah.
Had never seen the inside. I wanted them to have that experience. Many of my players never had the experience of staying in a hotel together as a team. I wanted them to get that experience. I wanted to see what it was like on the other side of the tracks. Mm-hmm. So those are things that I felt was responsibility, and was to me to give them that, to build that type of program. Mm-hmm. So, and all those things, the minute things that was very important, I felt. So when they made an opportunity, when they decided they wanted to go to school, it's their form. Mm-hmm. to talk about it, to teach them, to show them. It's their form. So as a high school coach in the inner city, we take on a lot of hats. Lot of hats.
Talk about it. Yeah.
Our kids did not come with silver spoons. I wasn't born with a silver spoon. I grew up in a household, my family of 18, I was the first kid in my family to go to college and get a college degree. And there's a lot of kids like that. And the kids that I was getting, I had to let them know, hey, I came from where you are. I've been there, I've done that. And don't think because I got this whistle, I got this, that I don't know what you're going through. Now, I'm not going to use, I don't want you to use it as an excuse. I cannot, a lot of times you cannot help from where they came from, but you can damn sure help them from where they need to go.
And it's so many things that people don't realize as a coach, the amount of things that we have to do just to get those kids on the court for that 6 o'clock game, for that 7 o'clock game, to where you might have to jump through so many hoops, because, a lot of times people think that, it's just supposed to happen, that you're just supposed to have these, talented kids and they go out and win the games. But as a coach, you had to do so many different things that had nothing to do with bouncing that ball.
Bryan, let me give an example one time. I tell this to a lot of people. When I first went to Columbia, we won a district title, and we made it to the Final Four. And during that time, the state invited all the teams down on we played on a Friday. They invite you down on a Thursday. So we went down on a Thursday. And and they had a banquet for all the teams that are there. And at the banquet, they were serving, they served a meal. It wasn't buffet. They had people come around and they, put the meal on your plate. And so I was sitting there and we were all sitting. So when I'll never forget this. They had a prime rib that they were serving everybody. And the prime rib, Bryan, was medium rare, which you're looking at red meat.
Right.
And my kids were looking down at the plate. And when they were looking down at the plate, I'm looking at them and I'm embarrassed for them. I'm embarrassed for them because my kids were not eating. Those that were eating, was taking the meat and was kind of pulling it off, took the fork, and didn't know how to cut. Many of them did not know how to cut the meat. Well, many of them had never seen a piece of steak like that. And they didn't know how. So Bryan, when we left the banquet room, most of my kids hadn't eaten. So we got on the bus and I told the bus driver to immediately take us to a McDonald's. I said to myself then, I said, I'm embarrassed with my kids. I said, but my kids, we would never go somewhere and my kids would not know how to eat properly and use the fork and the knife. So what I did when I got back to Vashon, every year, I used to have the home ec department bring my kids upstairs and we go through the whole etiquette process of how, that etiquette portion of eating out in public or whatever, because I never wanted them to have that same feeling. And I felt then, I said, you know what? It was not their fault, it's my fault, because I should not assume that these things are going on at home, which a lot of it's not in our household.
Right. Yeah, no, and that's key, and that's something that, like we just said, as far as our job kind of transitions more to being, like you said, a teacher. Sometimes we have to teach them, constantly teaching, and we have to do it as an example. Also, we got to make sure that we're doing it too.
And I know Bird and all of us, we all go through the same. We all dealt with the same kids.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is that maybe I might have done mine a little different than what some. You got kids who you go to their home. We were delivering turkeys one time with Demetrius Johnson's program that he does every Thanksgiving, and we volunteer. My kids I used to have my kids to volunteer to go. So I say be appreciative of what you got. And be thankful and to want to help somebody. You're exposed for volunteer. So we were going to the deliver turkeys, and we came up to this house whereby in our neighborhood, whereby one of my kids was reluctant to go to the house, and I kept telling him, take the turkey up to there, take this and the other. Bryan, to taking the turkey to the house was his house. Mm. And he did not want me or want us to go in because they had, looked like the whole back of the house was off. The front was, you could see the front, but the back was off, and they were getting electricity from with an extension cord from one house apartment to another apartment.
Hmm.
So, you know, and I looked at that, and you know, those are things, you know, a lot of people don't see what we go through, and all they see is the finished product.
Right. No, and then no, that's huge. And I wanted to kind of transition and kind of talk about it and get your thoughts on you know, a lot of times I feel like your teams never really got enough credit for fundamental basketball. So can you kind of talk about that? Because I think a lot of times what the perception of Vashon basketball is that you just roll the ball out there and, you know, these kids are going to just run up and down. But it's so many times that you actually look at a Vashon game and you just see how fundamentally sound all of the players were. Was that a conscious thing to make sure that you put into the program?
Well, there's a couple of things that goes along with that, Bryan, when you're saying that the perception. And I, you know, I always was aware of what the perception out there is. But the thing is that I felt like, you know, you got to be a thorough, you got to feel real bad that you look at a team that you thought that does nothing but roll the balls out, and you're doing all this hard work, and yet they still beat you. So that should make you feel bad. Because if you're doing all the right things and you're doing this stuff, and we're not supposed to be doing the right thing, and we're steady beating you, that makes you look bad. Then another thing is the perception was that I had all the talent. So if a coach tells his team, I got all the talent, what did they say about a Bryan Turner who's just as good or better than many of the kids I might have had? Bryan could have gone and played anywhere. So you're telling Bryan Turner he's not a good ball player? And you said, I got all the good, if I got all the good ball players, what did they say about you, Bryan? So that was some, you know, but the thing is this, Bryan, I worked at my profession just like many other coaches. I took great pride in my practice sessions. If anybody ever came to my practice sessions, they learned something, they watched, they walked away, and they never walked away with that perception. Because if I organized my practice, I got things out of practice what I wanted. I had more pleasure in coaching or practices than I did in games, because I felt as though if my kids did what they were supposed to do in practice, the games take care of itself. Absolutely. I didn't spend a lot of time worrying about other teams. I spent a lot of times working on the things that I wanted them to do best, because I felt that was going to help us in the long run. You know, that's going, you know, I didn't focus in, I didn't talk about. Now, when I had to play you, Bryan, I purposely never talked about Beaumont to my team until we got ready to play Beaumont. I didn't want to think about Beaumont, but I know Beaumont was there. And I knew I didn't have to, because I knew my kids knew about you, because we were so close in proximity. That was going to be a game that they had to know they had to bring their best. Right. So I purposely did that. So, but what I did was I did things in practice that I know and exposed my kids that I felt that those teams I had to really play against. You know, we worked on those things all year long to get prepared once we got in the situation. You talk to anybody who has been to one of my practices, and they would say, you know, things went according to, there's nothing. I always told my kids, we're not going to do anything in practice that you're not going to be able to see in the game. And when we got in games, I asked them, when we got into situations, I said, is there anything on this court, is anything Bryan Turner is doing that we have not seen or we have not worked on? Now, if it is, that's my fault.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I had Joe on, Joe Sheldon, and he talked about just making him a better player by always putting him with the kids who may have been the underclassmen, to make him to basically show his leadership skills to the younger guys, to basically say, hey, one day I'm not going to be here, so you guys got to start getting ready for what life is going to be like after I leave. So kind of talk about that of always getting the next group of guys ready, because the way he explained it, he was saying that the seniors are pretty much, that's the diamond. And so we have to revolve around them. but everybody else has a role to play. So kind of just talk about that philosophy and making sure that the seniors or the guys who lead the program and the underclassmen have to learn from them if we're doing this thing properly.
Well, you know, Bryan, you know that in any system or any situation, regardless of what you implement, the cream's gonna rise to the top. And I say that the fact that Joey was probably pound for pound one of the best high school basketball players that I've ever been associated with, ever been around. He was rather unique, and he would always tell me in practice, you know, Coach, when we get ready to scrimmage, is it all right for you to put all the, you know, he was a junior at the time, put the freshmen in with me. You know, Joey showed those leadership skills when he was a freshman. When we played, I remember telling two of the ball players who were playing in front of Joey at the time, I said, "Now Joey Shelton is going to get as much time as a freshman that you allow him to get." And I told my assistants, I said, you know, by Christmas time or after Christmas, Joey gonna probably be starting in front of two seniors. They say, what? I said, watch it. We went to play in a Poplar Bluff tournament during the Christmas holiday, and Joey come off the bench, and I always felt like the person that checked Joey the best and held Joey back was me, because I didn't want Joey to get too much too soon, because, you know, if he could average 30 points as a freshman, then what else, you know, then what can I give him as a sophomore? So to some degree, I had to have some type of range on Joey. And so we playing in the championship. I'll never forget, we played in the championship of the Poplar Bluff tournament. And I had, and we were down by a point with some seconds to go. And I called timeout, and I told the team, I said, now what we're gonna do is, our first option is we're gonna go to Lamont on the block. And in Lamont, you know, whatever you got, you take. I say, now, Rudy, you gonna flash high, whatever it is. The play was designed for option one, Lamont, option two, Rudy. Joey, you know, you're a freshman, you know, you just go over in the corner and get the hell out of the way. Bryan, I went out, we went out on the floor. Everything went according to the way we designed it, because we had already run this in practice before. And instead of the ball going into Lamont, the ball went into Lamont. The ball swung out of Lamont to Rudy, and Rudy throws the ball to Joey. And Joey jumps up and knocks down the shot just like it was not anything. Then you know, and then flicks or whatever. And the rest was history. We win the ball game, and they jump in. And I looked at that. I said, Lamont, do you see what you all just did? He said, no, what you mean, Coach? I said, you all just threw the ball to Joey, and you all just pole vaulted Joey from a role player into a lead person. And the rest, Bryan, the rest is history. And so the thing is that, and so Joey knew then, you know, he just, you know, he had that natural leadership ability.
And that's huge. Now, would you say, and just going back to that just a little bit, so just having an impressive streak in the 80s, as far as, you know, going to state, I think maybe 7 or 8 times in the 80s, and then kind of having just, you know, a third place finish in 90, a first place finish in 94. Do you think that when Vashon won the championship back in 2000, was that kind of like a reemergence of the program, would you say?
Well, you know, we were all, you know, not necessarily down. You know, if you look at our program and what we did in the 90s, to some programs, that would be a tremendous accomplishment. For us, it was not, because people got so used to us being there. And if you look at it, in order to get to state, if you're gonna make it to state, you got to go through Vashon to win it. Absolutely. So we still were, we were not down. We just went through a transition. And so in the late 90s, probably the most overachieving team I had is when I had Joey Shelton as a freshman, Robert Love as a senior.
No, Coach, a sophomore. It was
Okay.
98 team.
Okay, you remember that 98 team? And I thought
because that's the team that you guys lost to VAP.
Yeah, right, we lost to VAP we had lost to VAP the year. So with that team, you would look at it and say, well, there's no way this team is going to make it back to Columbia. And with that 98 team and that group, we still finished third in the state. Yeah. So and then you had Arnold Britt as a freshman. You had Man as
Jimmy, Man.
But Jimmy wasn't even there.
Oh no! You had Johnny Cooper.
Johnny Cooper came to Vashon and started off as a point guard and ended up his senior year as a center.
Yeah. Yeah, and I remember an amazing game you guys played Ladue at Flow Valley.
And
seeing Snowball just rise up, getting putbacks, Joey doing his thing, and Joey, like you said,
so I would say that it was more the system than it was the actual players.
Absolutely.
And the actual players were playing their roles within that system. So that, for the most part, that's what it was, Brian. And so, we with that emergence of Joey, and once he became the total leader, I think he did a great job of leading, and showing the kids what it takes to winning it all.
So when you talk about
he went from his freshman year in fourth place, his sophomore year third place, his junior year second place, and his senior year first place. Now, what more accomplishment for one little 5A guy can do for any program?
No, that's real.
And I always felt, Brian, if it wasn't for Joey, then Beaumont, I think that we might have been the stumbling block for you all making it to the final, to the Final Four. And because I felt that if we didn't win it, you all was gonna win.
Yeah, if I would have played for you, Coach, it would have probably been 4 championships. But
we'll
move on.
No doubt, no doubt.
So look,
you'd have fit right. You'd have fit, but Burr would have probably killed me. But you fit right in.
Man, nah, it was a pleasure.
Would have killed me, but you fit right in.
Yeah, it was a pleasure, because I always told Joe that iron sharpens iron. Like me watching everything that you guys were doing over there, it just made me work a little harder. Go up there, going to certain places, and
you had a tremendous career. You had nothing to be ashamed of. I felt really nothing to be ashamed of. And then look at you now.
Yeah.
It makes me feel real proud when I see you all, like I said earlier in the conversation, when I see you all taking the reins and you are running with it, and you got your own programs and you're doing things and you're helping kids, you're giving back. Right. And that's the main thing.
So I want to talk about, just like you said, just that the system. Do you see a similar system in the emergence of your son Tony Irons and sitting back, being able to watch what he's done with the program and kind of keeping the Vashon legacy still alive? Did you ever foresee that happening? And what can you say to watching him and kind of sit back, because now you got a generation of players that may not know of Floyd Irons. They only know Coach Irons as Tony Irons. So what can you kind of say about that? And what was your vision once you saw that he was going to take over the program?
Well, Brian, Tony and I never talked about him being a coach. I never tried to spearhead him, and I exposed him, and he would, from a child on, he was always around. Even though he didn't play at Vashon, and that's part of my fault. I ain't gonna blame my wife, even though that was, I listened to her and I wish I hadn't. But the thing is the fact that he was always around. He played with the team. He was just a part of it. But we never sit down to talk about him going into the coaching profession. You talk about his teams now. You know, he's his own man. I see a lot of similarities now than I did early on in what we did. Some of the things, you know, he does, and what some of the things that I do, and or did. But the thing is, the main thing is that I told him, if you're going to get into this profession, I want you to make sure that you're very serious about it. And not only about the coaching aspect of it, is because you got an opportunity, because your mother and father were educators, to be able to make sure you got a great education and you can stand on your own too. Your legacy is going to be how many kids that you can get forward and get in better situations, get in school, or get in better situations than what they are. That's going to be your legacy. And don't ever forget that. And I don't care how many games you win, how many or whatever. When you look, I can look at a Bryan Turner. I might have not had the direct effect on Bryan, but indirectly I had some effect on Bryan. You know, because you saw your coach as an educator, you saw me as an educator. So, you know, and I look at and the players that I have who come back to the coach. So that's the biggest thing I take pleasure in, when I see the kids that I coach. You know, I purposely built the family atmosphere. You know, I purposely want to build a program that other people will be jealous of to some degree, and envy, because I wanted, you know, that was there, you know, and I purposely did that. You know, it was a method to my madness. So, you know, he's got his own program. I see similarities, and it makes me proud to be his father, to see that he's doing as well as he's doing in such a short time, because it took me, Bryan, 10 years before I won my first title.
Right.
And here he has 5 in less than 10 years.
Yeah.
And he's done something that a lot of coaches would kill for. So, but I always tell them, don't take it for granted, and don't let your kids take it for granted.
Yeah. That's I mean, that's a jewel right there, Coach. I wanna I got a couple more questions, because I ain't gonna hold you. I know, you know, time is of the essence, but I want to kind of just get your opinions on just a couple of current events. So when we see, you know, we got the NCAA tournament going on right now. How is it and you really, I mean, you kind of dealt with it a little bit, but not so much. But what can you say as far as when you see the climate of kids and the whole, you know, transfer portal, when you see kids that are able to just leave schools without going through any type of adversity and sticking it out? Do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing? Because I mean, on one end, we see a lot of the coaches, if they get an opportunity to win during this time of the year, they're going to be up and try to, you know, make sure that their situation as a coach is better. Do you think that that's a good thing for players to be able to transfer just, you know, at ease during this type of climate right now?
Ryan, I think if anything is coming good out of this pandemic situation, is the fact that the kids are not being penalized, or shouldn't be penalized. You know, I think that if, like you said, if coaches get an opportunity to be able to move and go for something that they feel is better for them, you know, the kids been going through the same type of adversity. You know, this is something that none of us has ever. I know I've never experienced it, and none of us anticipated this situation. So, you know, and we've endured, and these kids endure it a lot. So so if there's anything good coming out of it, is the fact that kids are able to get, even in college situations, their extra year. Unfortunately for high school kids, you know, they can't do that. Even with this pandemic situation, a lot of kids are not able to play in the state tournament simply because of COVID, you know, and that would have probably affected them the rest of their lives. Whereas at least the college kids are getting an opportunity to get into this portal and be able to move on. And if they see something better for them, you know, they should get it. I really feel as though that college kids should be able to get some type of revenue from the NCAA or for college to participate. You know, every kid is not going to be a professional, and I'm sure that down the road they're going to be. They hope they be professionals in something.
Right.
You know, so I really do feel as though. So no, I'm a proponent of the fact that they should get something, and I'm a proponent of the fact that they should go in the COVID situation, that they should be able to go in the portal and to choose a better opportunity for them, just like the college coaches.
Yeah, no, that's
the way I feel.
No, that's real, because like I said, that you look at coaches, every time another opportunity can come for them to, they have some success, and it's kind of like, striking while the iron is hot on their end.
Exactly.
They're gonna do it,
And no doubt. If you gotta, it's just like a job, and when they go to college, it is a job.
Absolutely.
High school, they have to understand, when I tell my players all the time, when I coach, the love for you is over when you leave my program or the high school program. That high school coach, when they say they love you, for the most part, they do. When you go to college and you get in these programs, it's a business. If you don't produce and you can't do, then they're going to look for somebody else, because they're paying these college coaches a lot of money. And they're not going to lose that money if they can help it, with no poop butt person with a problem.
There's no way I can go.
You
they
gotta
can go to
on my
right.
It's their job.
Yeah, you can't say I'm looking at a mortgage and my kids' tuition, and I can't deal with you. Look, I'm gonna find somebody. Here go an Apple and a bus ticket. I'll see you later.
If you helping me keep this mortgage going and you helping me make this money, I love you. I love you.
That's real. That's real, Coach.
That's real.
So I don't want to put you on the spot, man. But then you don't have to answer this if you don't want to. If you could give me a starting five of Vashon's or the players you coach, a starting five, who would it be?
Bryan, you put me on the spot.
No, I ain't gonna do that, because it's gonna start a whole lot of talking, man.
It's gonna start a whole, and I don't know. I'm sure that a lot of people be listening to that, and I get that question. I get that question all the time. Who's your best player? And you know what? And one thing I would say, pound for pound, that little 5'8" person that I had, Joey Shelton, was one of the best ball players I've ever had.
That's huge,
for what he did, man. I just said now one. So
I get it. No.
I didn't say he was the best. I say one of the best players I've ever coached.
And I'm pretty sure that a lot of the alumni that they understand.
One of the best kids on and off. But is Joey was, if I had a top 10, Joey would probably be considered 8th, 9th, or 10th person from 1 to 10 as a practice player. Bryan, Joey did everything in practice to a point where he was one of the worst practice players that I've had. But he would drive me crazy, because when we get into drills, he would go at half speed, look like, and winning everything. But my idea of speed was not Joey's idea of sweating hard. If we running the sprints, he would come in. He won't come in first, but he might come in 6th. And we're doing this, that, and that. But when you get between the lines and that basketball, it was you couldn't take it away from him.
That's my guy to this day, and I'm glad that he was able to, man, bless this program, man. And I appreciate that you took the time out to jump on here, because like I said, ever since I started doing this, you're someone that I wanted to reach out to, and just to get your perspective on some things. And so I'm kind of glad that you was able to give me a little time, and we might have to do a part 2 to this, man.
Bryan, you didn't play for me, but I was always one of your fans, and I'm definitely one of your fans now, because I appreciate what you're doing.
Man, I appreciate that, Coach, man.
He does. I appreciate what you're doing. And I know, just like I'm proud of my son and Jimmy and of those coaches, those players who are doing coaching now, I know that Coach Hamilton is just equally as proud.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. So,
It's
man,
proud.
I'll let you get back to your where
Okay.
y'all at the steakhouse, man? Where y'all
Yeah,
at,
we
man?
at the
Eating some more?
Longhorn Steakhouse. I'm gonna get back in here. I brought them out to eat, so I know I gotta get in to pay for the bill because then I move.
Man, tell everybody I said hi, Coach, and I appreciate you,
I
man.
will, Brian.
Thank you so much.
And thank you, bro. I'll be talking with you. Okay.
All right.
Bye-bye.